Hello everyone, I'm back, and this is the next part of our jewelry series. Just check in the description to see what the part number is. But if you watched the last part, because I'm having lost track of the numbers, this is where I left off with these beads. And something I had forgot to mention, and I'm going to mention now, is when you're out and about thrifting, probably, at your bigger thrift centers like Salvation Army or Goodwill or Value Village, look for some cheap, nasty earring stands. Because these are a great way to put all of your dangles and beads together. Like this is supposed to be for holding earrings. I don't know if I'm showing this right. And this one's got like a little tray on the bottom. But here's my first dangle that we made together with the chain on it. It's hardened now. And it is taking up one little space, and I can continue to put more on here. There's also these little loops here that I can hang more things from, and I can actually even use this to work from. And you may not find this exact jewelry stand, but there are other kinds, or even, kinds that just have lines going, like little rods going across, or even an intricate lampshade with no fabric on it will work great to hang dangles and things from it. It's great to put these ball pins, but if you don't want to use these ball pins ahead of time, remember I said never throw anything out. Always keep everything. I keep the earring pieces. Now if I'm going to find one in this bucket just to show you, because I did have one here. Here we go. So I keep these earring hooks. I don't reuse them because, I'm always concerned if they're clean enough to reuse. But I do take them off of the earrings when I'm going to repurpose my jewelry. And I keep them in a container. And you could probably keep them right with your stuff. And if you didn't want to use your good bulb pins right away to hang your jewelry from, you can just leave this open and stick your piece through here and hang it on there that way, and until you're ready to use it on a project. And this way you can, and then I also close the earring hoop or hook a little bit so that it's not opened up. But this way you can hook your jewelry onto a rod, onto a wire, onto a piece of screen. Maybe you have an old picture frame and you can put some screen in it and then hook all of your pieces together on there. Not only is it attractive to look at, it's kind of an accomplishment, to have this full of beautiful pieces that you can choose to use for your art creations. But it's attractive to look at. It makes people, again, take you more seriously when they come into your studio and you've got this beautiful rack of charms and dangles that you're adding into your journals. A lot of people I find say that they don't get the respect from their family or their friends for the type of work that they do. And maybe it's because you're not showing them the artist that you are. And, sometimes we get too caught up in brown paper bags and recycling cardboard boxes that you lose focus of being an artist. And so your space should reflect who you are and what it is you're trying to achieve. And then that in itself earns respect, from those around you who see how you decorate your room and how everything is organized, not necessarily put in its place. I mean, look at my tabletop. But but if you have some really fun displays and things that show your artistic expression, it makes you feel good when you come in the room. And then when this rack is full, the accomplishment that you have from working with what was once garbage. So always take the time to find the right things to display so that you get a visual. You can see the colors that you're working in. Maybe you only like to work in certain colors, but it's always nice to have, collections of different pieces to work with. So find these. They're very inexpensive to buy. I think I paid $2.99 for this one. Probably got my discount on it as well. Maybe you have a couple of earring stands or jewelry stands that you can use. Even an old, the tabletop towel holders where they had just one long rod. I've got one in my studio. I should bring it over one day. One long rod, and you can use that to hang dangles from. Like I said, lampshades, an old screen from a fireplace. You know, the fireplace screens, they are fabulous for displaying things. And I'll have to take you through my studio a little bit one day and show you all of those as well. So, yeah, that is a great way to display, and how I'm showing things here in our session of jewelry making. So I didn't get very far. This is where I left off. I left everything sitting here on the table, and I did want to go back to this painting project that I had sitting here from the rust paint that I used the other day. If you watched that video, if you didn't, you got to go back and watch it. Otherwise, you don't know what's going on. So something I totally forgot about, and then only after I shut off the camera did I remember, you can use your heat gun to dry things faster if you want. But not everybody has a heat tool, and you are subject to waiting for things to dry. So, you know, you can wait the long way as well. So all I did is I put one coat of this rust paint on these way too shiny pieces. Now I've got this forest green. And again, I'm just going to dabble a little tiny drop here. Hopefully it'll come out okay. It's not forest green. It's kind of, what is the name of it? Tartan green. But it could be just about anything. So I've got a little tiny dot there. Now I'm taking a sponge and I'm just tearing off a piece, because I don't want to have rigid corners on it. I just want this rough looking piece of sponge. If you have some sea sponge, you know, the real sea sponge, you can use that as well. But I didn't have it handy, so I just grabbed an ordinary sponge. And if you don't have a sea sponge, this works just fine, just like this. So I'm just going to dab a little bit of green. You can see how much is on here. And I'm going to just move it over here and just dab it out a bit, because I don't want very much. And I'm going to sponge it on in spots. A little bit more. And, you know, in some places you can have a little bit more color, but in other places a little bit less. And I'm just going to leave it like that. Same with this one. I'm going to go on to doing this one the same way. Sponging a little bit of the green over top of this ugly rusty orange color. Don't want to get that pearl. I'm trying to salvage the pearl. And then I went and did a bottle cap when you weren't watching. And so I'm going to just do the edges of this bottle cap, knowing that I'm going to put a picture in there or some kind of a little, I could put a gem in there too if I wanted. And I'm just going to let this dry as well. So we'll go on to doing our other things, but I've just added a little bit of green here onto this rusty orange color. And it still looks pretty ugly. Don't worry, it's going to get better. And we're going to go back to this jewelry. Now I have this necklace here, and hopefully, you know, I'm doing this video right after the last one, so I haven't got to see any comments yet. So I'm hoping that you are still interested in seeing me do all kinds of things with this jewelry. So I have this necklace, and it's got these little brass leaves here, and there's one dangling from there. And I have these fairies, so it just kind of said foresty thing to me. So I'm just going to pull out some of these fairies. And I'm going to take this apart. Now, here is a jump ring connecting these pieces together. So I'm going to take this jump ring and open it up. Normally I would just cut them, but I don't have any brass ones today. I do, but they're all bigger. So I'm just going to take this and open it up. And this will take this chain off too. There we go. And I'm just going to set this jump ring aside here. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. Open this one up. And remember, we're going back and, or like forward and backwards to open these up, just so that they don't get too twisted out of whack that you can't close them up again. Oh, gotta open it a little bit more. I hope you can see that. I noticed, I did watch the other video and I noticed that my hair was in the way there. That was an ugly looking mess. I just finished walking the dog before I did this video. So I hadn't combed my hair. All right, so I've got the chain off and we will get to using that as well. And I'm just going to open up this a little bit more because I want to get that other jump ring right off. And this is a thicker piece here. Okay, so I've got that off. So I want to capture these leaves individually. Now this one is one dangle off of this whole thing here. It's got 3 different pieces. So I'm just going to take this one off for now. Now this is something that you have to explore individually yourself when you're doing these, because it's not like we're going to have the same pieces to work with each time. It's always going to be something different. Oop. Okay, so I've got this one off and it's got the bead on here and it's got the leaf, and then there's this jump ring. It's also on this kind of a looped charm thing already. So I don't even need that jump ring. I'll just keep it off for now. But I've got these 2 pieces here. And let's see what else we've got. So there's this leaf and it is dangling. It's dangling from this one. So if I took that apart at this loop, now this is the part where it's boring to watch me do this, I'm sure. And if you just want to fast forward, that's up to you, but you might miss something. I might say something, important. There we go. So this one has a little bit more going on here, but it's got this leaf in here as well. So I just looked at these leaves and I just said, oh, that's kind of foresty, and that's where fairies are. So I have another leaf on this one and another one on this one. So I'm going to take this apart here because I think this will work right there. And it feels like sometimes you have to run your fingernail across it to find where the opening is, which is what I'm doing. Now I'm probably, well, I'm going to use some of these jump rings, but not all of them. Okay, so I've got another piece here with a leaf, if you can see that. And then I have this fourth piece with a leaf. Now this one, the leaf is separate, and so is this little bead is on a separate jump ring, if you can see that. And it conveniently has a little loop on this. It's like a connector piece. This round circle has a loop on either end. So this bead is loose on there, and same with this leaf. They're on separate jump rings. So I want to hang a fairy to come down from there. But if I put her there and this starts to dangle, the bead is going to be in front of it, the leaf is going to be behind it or in front of it, and that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see the fairy. So we are going to connect the fairy by adding a jump ring up there with a piece of this chain, and then another jump ring to connect the chain to the fairy at this end. Because this chain, now you could use this chain as it is, but it's such a fine chain, it will make you crazy to try to figure out how to open and close each loop. Just finding the loop will you'll throw it in the corner. So it's better. We've got the jump rings anyway, so we can use two jump rings, one at this end to connect, to connect to that little loop, and then one at the other end to connect to the fairy. So I'm going to put these other ones aside. And so this is what it looks like right now. And there's the fairy down there. And we've got this chain. Now this chain has a lobster claw on it. This is what's used to close the necklace. I'm going to just keep this piece separate. It came obviously where it had the two chains on one side of the necklace and the two chains on the other side. But I like that this lobster claw is on here already, and it is ready to just add things onto it to make it a fancy dangle charm thing. So I'm just going to, this is a work in progress, this piece right here, so I'm just going to leave it separately. But this chain now is, it has another chain that hangs from the back. This, if you look at it, is a larger loop compared to these tiny ones. And that would have been the piece that you connected with the lobster claw to make your necklace. You know, sometimes these are hanging down at the back of your neck if you want to make it longer or shorter. It's like an extension. So we're going to work with this small stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it with my pliers. I'm going to cut at the first link just to break it off of the and make it a single strand. And the reason I break it off is, again, to open it or close it would be impossible. You need a good magnifier. It's just not worth it. It's easier to just, and then to try and close it and connect it again is painful. So I don't want this fairy to be super dangling from there, but I do want to be able to see the fairy. So if the fairy is about here from the chain, maybe a little bit longer. So I kind of need from that loop up to which you can't really see too easily. I'll move this over a little bit. So you can see I only need about 1.5 inches of chain. It's not very much. So I'm just going to take my pliers now and cut a piece at that end. And you should probably cover it with your hand when you're cutting it, if you don't want it to ricochet off on something. And there's the chain, and I'm just going to chuck that. That little jump ring is way too small. So there is my piece of chain. I'm going to now connect it by adding it to that end of the loop. I hope you can see that. And then I'm going to connect it to the fairy. So this is where it gets a little bit painful. I'm taking one of those jump rings that we've already used or taken off, and I'm going to feed it onto that chain, which was pretty easy. Okay, so it's on the chain, and now I'm going to feed that connector loop onto the same jump ring, and then taking my other pliers, I'm going to close it the same way we opened it up. And I kind of rock it back and forth until I hear that click. So now it's on here, and it's not on here very good. There we go. And so now we have it on here, and I want to now connect this chain to the fairy. So taking another one of those jump rings, the smaller ones, I'm going to feed the end of that chain onto this jump ring, and then feed the fairy. I'm not going to feed the fairy. I'm going to just put the fairy, no feeding the fairies, on the jump ring and close it at this end. If I can see what I'm doing. Yep, it's closed. So now I have a fairy dangling. She's dangling quite far down there, but I don't mind that. And if I want to, I can even add another little bit of color to here, because this is all in this brassy color. And I do have lots of these fun little beads. So I can add a bead on here as well, doing the same thing. I would put it on a little head pin. So I've got head pins, I think. Yes, I have a brass one here. So this again is where we run into that situation of waste that I don't really care for. But I have some brass beads here. So I'm going to add a brass bead. I say brass, I mean the antique gold. And then the colored bead. There we go. And so I have the 3 beads on here. Now I will not throw this away because I may want to use it again for a second piece. So I've got the 3 beads on here. I'm just going to bend this down. It's nice and tight. And the head pin is flat against the bottom of the bead. So that is finishing now. So there's nothing that you can add on to this. And then holding the 3 beads together, I'm going to take my cutting tool and about 3/8 of an inch. I keep saying 1/4, but it's actually about 3/8. And I'm keeping that wire. And using my round nose pliers, I'm going to take the end of that wire, or the wire, and make it into a loop. But I'm not going to completely close it, because if I completely close it, then I need a jump ring to add on to here. So I've left it open just a tiny, tiny little bit. Actually, I'm going to open it up a little bit more so it's not quite so closed. And then I'm just going to pick a spot sort of about halfway up the chain, and I'm going to feed this onto the chain, which I've done now. It's on an actual loop. It's not running loose on there. And then taking my flat nose pliers, I'm just going to squeeze this loop closed. And bring it towards the top bead. And I now have this, where are we? Here we are. Sorry, I got kind of just this little fairy dangling with this bead. And maybe we could add something else on here yet. So there's a little brass bead here that I could add, or I could go back and add another one of these little red ones, or rusty colored beads. I think I'll do that because it's got the gold on here as well. Now, I would go back and use this, but it's not a head pin. So that means I would have to put an eye on both ends. So I'm not going to use it for this, but I will put a loop on there right now. This is that little piece of wire that I cut off. And I'm going to close it. So that I have another little eye pin that I can use to connect. I can put a couple beads on here and use this to connect to other things so that this doesn't get wasted. I know some of you are saying, Kim, just throw it away. I can't. That's me. I'm sorry. That's how it is. And that's how I will always be. And I use up every little scrap I can because we pay money for this. So instead of throwing it in the garbage, I can feed a couple of beads on here and use it to connect to another thing. And when we get into some other stuff, you'll understand why. So I'm going to take another head pin and do exactly the same thing. And I'm going to get two of those little antique gold beads instead of me saying brass beads. Now, when you're working with this kind of stuff, I only put out exactly what I need at the time. And it's a good idea before you put things away to pick up every bag and make sure that you've sealed it. And trust me when I say to do this, because you're learning from someone who's dumped enough beads on the floor and cursed a few blue streaks in her studio to just know when I say it's a good idea to check the bags before you lift them up. So I've got the 3 beads on here, and taking my pliers, I'm just going to bend the wire forward. And then I like to, I mean, I can use these cutters too that are on the pliers, but I like these ones because they're a little bit more precise. Cutting it down. And then taking my round nose pliers, I'm going to bend that wire forward to make the loop, but I'm not going to close it all the way because I want to be able to feed it onto this chain. And this time I want it to land somewhere where the end of this leaf is. So I'm going to pick this up. Feed it onto the loop. And taking my flat nose pliers, closing it up. And then I just check it to make sure it's straight. And we now have this cute little fairy charm. And she's got some other little beads hanging from there, and it is good to go. So I can add a bulb pin onto here, or if you wanted, you could add this onto a paper clip and just paper clip it onto something. I don't know if I have any brass ones today, but let me just show you. If you don't have ball pins, you can add this onto a paper clip. And still use it on the side of a page with a paper clip. And look how cute that is hanging there. So if you're doing a little fairy journal, you can have your fairy dangling with this leaf charm and these other little beads, and it makes a really cute little extension. Or you can use the paper clip to, again, hang it on your charm holder. You can also feed this onto a safety pin. So if you wanted to add your fairy onto a safety pin, I'm not going to actually do it because I don't have any brass ones, but in this case I would just take a jump ring and put it through the bottom of the pin, as well as through the bottom of, or the top of the charm, to add it onto the pin, and then you can pin it onto some fabric. You can also take the jump ring and put it through the side of the pin that doesn't open. So this side of the pin, you can add it onto there. You can open this up and feed it around the pin if you want to avoid using a jump ring. And then this can be pinned onto your fabric as well. But for myself, a paper clip works just fine for storage as another method to store them. And so I'm going to use that method. And taking my jewelry stand, I'm just going to add it onto here with the paper clip. So that's just another way for you to store them until you're actually going to use them. The only thing about that I don't care for is that if I decide I need a jump ring, I still have to do that, or if I have to get a ball pin or pin. But if you're just looking to do quick storage, this is an alternative for you as well. But I know I will, they're a little harder to get off too. And you can also hang it from the hook up here as well. But I'd like to save that for something else instead. So that just shows you how to do these little chains. And I'm going to get 4 fairies out of this one set of chain leaves. And if you had to go and buy these, let's just see which way to go here. Yeah, I think I'll go this way because this one's going to be a longer one. Now, this one has an extra jump ring on here that I'm going to take off because I'm sure I will use that. If you were to go and buy these charms online, you know that they would cost way more than what this necklace cost and what these pieces cost that I've found while thrifting. Remember, this all comes out of that $15 box or $15 goodie bag that I got, with exception only to a couple of necklaces that I've this one was in the box, but there are a couple of other necklaces that I've added to it since the blue one and some of this chain and stuff. But, you know, I haven't spent very much money on those necklaces either. And so you can tell that in making this stuff, it's very inexpensive to make, to do it yourself. So now taking again this piece of chain. Now I'm going to make this one purposely shorter because it's so much longer up here with the extra connection piece. So I'm just going to make this a shorter chain, and then we won't add any beads onto this one. So cutting that short. And then taking one of these jump rings. Sure, Kim. There we go. And adding it onto the loop that's already there. And if there wasn't a loop there, I would just add it right onto this ring. Ooh, let it go. Don't fall off. Don't fall off. Okay, and then taking my other pliers and then putting them back together. That feels pretty good. Just a little bit more. There we go. Good. And then taking the other end and feeding that other little jump ring onto here. Now I work on a piece of felt. Leather is also a good thing to work on, like a suede leather, velvet. You want to work on a color that you can at least see your pieces quite easily. So now I've got this jump ring on this other piece of chain on the other end of the chain, and I'm going to add my fairy onto there. There we go. And then closing it up. Okay. And so let's just have a peek at how this looks. She still came out quite long, didn't she? But I'm happy with that length. I don't think I would add anything else onto there. I'm happy with how this looks just like that. So I'm not going to continue to make the other two online on camera. I'm going to save that for doing off camera. But it's a matter of just playing with the pieces you have and seeing how you can make it work together. Each one is going to be completely different. Like this one here, I think is going to have some adjusting. I'm going to have to play around with it. I don't think I like this bobbly bead on this big bead on here. I think I'm going to take it off and just work with those and then add some more chain and the fairy. And then same with this one. This one looks like it's good to go. It's got the now this one's got the drop right going through the connector thing. So I think I'm going to move this over. Actually, I'm going to do it right now. Just find the opening. I usually run my fingernail across it just to see if, there we go. And I just have to open it enough to so I'm just taking it off of this connector so that the connector is loose from both ends. And I'm just putting it on the other side of the ring opposite the leaf and closing it up. And so now this one is also ready to go to add my fairy down there as well. So with these leaves, what it's done is it's given me this foresty look. I will have to play on this one. I don't think I want that big blobby bead up there. I think I'll just work with this instead at the bottom. And fit my fairy in here with the chain. So I'm not going to work any further with this online. I've also got these paper clips from Nikki. Now, this paper clip actually will be perfect with this. I don't know why I kind of forgot. Just take it right off of here. And what's fun about this, I'm going to feed this onto here. And then just for fun, where this last piece of the paper clip is, now I don't know how tough this wire is, so I'm going to have to see. I'm going to bend it up a little bit first to get my pliers in here. And it's a little bit tougher of a wire, but I'm going to roll it. Until it's rolled right up to that, to the end, or to the other end of the wire. And then I'm going to lift this up a little bit. Oh, I broke it right off. Okay, one more time. Sometimes if you push them too much back and forth, they will break. Or maybe I should have left it as a paper clip. There we go. And this can now be a further dangling piece. And it can also still be a paper clip. I could have left it as it was as a paper clip. And this will also dangle very nicely from, let's go this way. There we go. And this will also dangle. And then closing it off at this end will give me another option to add more stuff onto it as well. Or I can go back and put this right onto that loop, which is actually a good idea. So I will open it up. And this is what I mean. Sometimes you have to think about how you want to do stuff. It doesn't always come out perfect. A little bit more. And hope you don't break it. There we go. And then close it. Moment of silence while I do this. And then it can be used as an actual paper clip and dangle from the paper clip itself. So yeah, sometimes you just have to think about things a little bit more as to how you can add it onto other stuff. But this works just fine as a paper clip. So that's all I'm going to show you for today, is how I finished off and used this necklace and the fairies and adding the chain extension. Again, I will need more feedback from you as to where we're going with this and to how far we're going to go with this. I was just looking at this bottle cap. Wouldn't this be cool to, I don't know if I put holes in this one or not, but you know, something like this can be added onto these as well. It just gets endless as to what you can add on. I mean, it's a flower, so there's a fairy, there's a leaf. You know, I can go on and on with this. There's this one as well, the daisy. Now this one had 2 holes in it. So I can, I got to finish that painting I was doing. Okay, let me bring that back into the picture here. Hopefully this is dry by now. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm going to take my brush one more time. And I know it looks ugly, but now we're going to take this turquoisey blue color. I think it's called robin's egg blue. And I'm just going to put a little drop again. And putting a little bit on my brush, not much. I'm now going to dry brush over top of this. And I want the copper and the green to show through a little bit. And then taking my paper towel, I'm just going to wipe and dab away a little bit at it. So it gets a little bit of that gold showing through, and the copper and the green. And then once this is completely dry, actually I rubbed a little bit too hard there. And once this is completely dry, I will put a light coat of varnish over top. And there's your ugly green or gold piece that now has a sort of a rusted copper patina look to it without much effort at all. And I love the green stone in here. So this now is a really cute piece to me. I can't wait to work with that. And that's got, it's a brooch, so it's ready to go. Same with this one now. I will just dry brush some of this turquoise over top. And I will work on these pieces and show you the finished results when they're varnished and dry. I rubbed too much there. And I will probably go over with just a little bit of brown afterwards on top yet one more time. But I will do that off camera and show you the finished results with this after. But just to give you an idea how it's changed the look of that piece without much effort and much expense. And this is a little bit more interesting of a piece to work with than this shiny, shiny gold stuff. And then the same with this one here. A little bit of this teal over top. Now I'm not doing the center because I know I'm probably putting something in there. And so I will leave that now to dry. I can probably take a little bit of this off too. And I promise you these will be fun pieces when they're dry and varnished and ready to go. So what a difference that makes with that shiny gold to this more antique-y looking coppery kind of piece. So that's it for today's video. That's 2 parts for you this week. I hope you're enjoying this. Please let me know, because that's going to be the deciding factor as to how long I keep doing this. I have lots of jewelry to play with. You saw that. And it's not easy to do, 20 pieces in one session. So I can show you a few things that are different each time. But just this little pile here can last me another two sessions. So I will switch it up. I will put this in a baggie, put it aside. I may come back to it. We'll work on another color. I may do this piece in between, but I will definitely finish these off camera. So in the end, you will see them all on my jewelry stand and completed, and you'll know how I kind of put them together no matter what. So that's it. That's all for today. I wish you all a very creative day and a creative week. And I don't know where we're at because I am pre-filming this. So have a great weekend. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye for now.